last week's Go Zone Hope Kids takeover. But you won't have to worry about, this will be one of those times we just talked about it, but now there won't be anything on the admin account for my live stream guy. Eric, is it you? Angela? I can't remember who it is. Yeah. You won't have to worry about watching anything. There won't be anything for you to watch because we're not doing a regular rehearsal. Obviously, Rick, you can set up whenever you want to set up, or you can set up in the morning, okay? And we are going to start tomorrow at 7:30, okay? 7:30 in the morning instead of 7:45, so we need to run the set, okay? We are only doing 4 songs this week and 4 songs next week. Whoever's on, do not fret over that. That's on purpose because we have Mark, and then we have Roberta Nagel is coming to give us a missionary update, and next week we'll have Mark and Kelly and Josh Hallahan are giving us a missionary update, okay? So we got 2 weeks of missionaries, and we're just going to shorten the set a little, okay? Tomorrow at the end of service, we are going to finish the service with a song Kylie is going to sing. Tanner and I will accompany. We don't need you, Dustin. We love you, but we don't need you. And Mark is going to do, he told the staff to hold on because he's going to go rogue on us here. He's going to do something at the end of service, but we're going to sing a song over that. Rick, we will not use words for that. So for the closing song, we're going to do a closing song tomorrow in church. We're not going to put words up. So just sound, Sawyer's here, like we obviously will be in the room for that, okay? So that's a little bit different for tomorrow, but just keep that in mind for tomorrow. All right, this is something that I'm going to ask. Can I get you to help me? I'm going to give this to every band member. If you're a drummer, you can have one. I don't think you'll care. You're still a band member, but it won't matter to you. If you play an instrument, raise your hand or she knows who you are, I think, okay? Vocalists, you can do it for fun. Anybody can do it for fun that wants to, but you are also not required. Let me tell you what this is. This is a music theory assessment. This is not because I need you to know who's the smartest with music theory. This is also not like when I was in college and I took freshman theory and sophomore theory. This is not that. Like, I don't care if you know things that don't pertain to what we do in worship music. However, our instrumentalists, and anybody who wants to can, our instrumentalists, what we're trying to do with developing a little bit more of our musicianship, which is going to be under a little bit of Tanner's help and mine, is find out what you know and what you don't know. So don't cheat, okay? Don't look it up. Listen, I asked these questions to Mark, and he is smarter than me in everything in life except for music theory. I was like, it's one against like 100,000 things. So please, I don't want you to be like, I don't know that, I'm a failure. No, you're not. It helps me know what we need help in. And again, I'm going to go back to this. The reason it's valuable is because as we grow forward, I think it's important that we know how to communicate with one another and that we can communicate well, okay? We might do a class, we might do a course, we might just follow up one-on-ones. I don't know. I'm just letting you know things like, can you play an E major scale? What are the notes in it? Can you tell me how many chords are in each major key? What are the major chords in each key? Numbers, these are the things that are helping us go as we communicate, especially with an MD, Mike, and he says, guys, we're going to go to the 4. We're going to stay on the 4. That's different now. Do we know what the 4 chord is in the key of D? Do we know you know what I mean? That's little helpful things that we don't have to get it all down now, but I think it's probably ways we can grow, okay? So let me just say there's 19 questions here. Sometime between now and like a week from now, if you'll just get it back to me, okay? And like I said, if you cheat, it's just dumb because it's not going to help you. I'm not going to know who kind of has the same struggles or understands the same amount of things and who doesn't. It's going to be better if I know, hey, I don't know this. I've never heard that before. That's fine. We're going to figure out how to help get better at the musician aspect of our team, okay? And put your name on the paper. That will help me. And if you are a vocalist or somebody else in the production booth and you want to do it for fun to assess yourself, you can. That's fine. Go for it. Nobody's going to get a star, I promise. And nobody's going to flunk. It's just an assessment. Okay? So, in growing forward with the team and with the church in mind, we are asking God to open doors and bring clarity to what He's doing. Okay? One thing we know is that time continues to march on and people get older. As much as I want it to slow down, it is a crazy thought to me. I thought of this the other day. I might have said it to Emily. I can't remember who I was talking to. When we started the church 18 years ago, I was the third youngest person on our team. Melissa was younger than me by a few years. You little jerk. No. A few years younger than me, and Carla Baumeister, who was Carla Hopkins by then, I think. She was already Carla Hopkins, but she was in her young 20s. Yeah. They were the only two people on the team that were younger than me. And now I'm like, if you are 33, 4, which is what I was when we started, 32, 33, you are in the older category of people on our team, if you're that and older. And that means, you guys, we have like more than half of our stage team is under 30. And that's awesome. That is, to me, I'm like, I love that that's where we are. Mark said this, we are attracting multi-generational, and multi-generational is valid and important. Your job is not over if you are mid-30s and over. You're just beginning. But to have that many younger people, like the fact that that's crazy to me that if you're that age where I was one of the few, there's a bunch of you, and that's awesome. We're attracting and having younger people with young kids coming to church. And I think it's important, I think it matters that they see people leading in all the areas, but in stage team and production team that are living the same kind of life that they're living right now, okay? So I love that is where we are. I love it, okay? Anybody else want a quiz just for fun? Okay.
I think I got all the bands.
It's not fun? Okay, those are fun. Okay, so do you guys remember when we used to have Yam Jam? Young adults? Yam Jam was because there were just a handful of like 20-somethings that were playing on the team. And the rest of everybody was, older. And now a Yam Jam would just be, it's any average Sunday. It's just, we have a lot of 20s and young 30s, and it's a really good thing. So I love that. It would used to be to give them an opportunity to lead, and now it's like that is the church, and that's an awesome thing. So at the same time, I'm not saying that us older folks, we don't need to bow out, and we don't need to throw in the towel. We need to continue to live in and step up and step in as God is calling us, live the example that we're asking the next generation to follow, okay? So we're not tired and lame and over to the side of the road. We're in, okay, for as long as God calls us into it. I think of the multiple biblical examples of people whose ministry started in the second half of their lives. Think Abraham, and he wasn't second half of his life. Seemed like the end of, and it was happening, okay? Moses was 80, right? 40? We're talking about people who weren't 17 and 18 and 19. God was giving and is continuing to give ministry opportunity and a weight and a responsibility on us, generationally older folks, to pass on what we know and what we believe about the value of leading worship, okay? And part of that is to transition well when God is moving in us and moving us toward other areas of serving in his church and his kingdom, okay? So the word transition, that has kind of been part of my prayer. It's part of Mark's prayer in our heart over the last couple of years. I've seen God open doors for me and move in me, like in things that I wasn't expecting necessarily. I've seen him move in those he seems to be calling to step up, and it's been exciting. Even if it's a little bit uncertain, it's been exciting to see. So we have been a church who leads in teams since the very beginning, and as many areas as we can do that. We feel like that team thing is so valuable and so necessary, all right? So we're kind of seeing what we believe God is doing in leading and forming a leading team in our worship ministry, okay? And in case the word transition feels daunting or unsettling to you, let's just think of it like these are next steps. This is just kind of what's in front of us next, okay? Because it could be like, oh dear, a bunch is changing, we're transitioning out, she's got one foot in the grave. Like, that's not, I don't mean that. So just think of it as like next steps, okay? Now, most of you guys are aware, I don't think any of this is going to surprise anyone sitting here, but I want to talk it through a little bit. Most of you guys know Kylie is my assistant. She has been doing this for a few years now. She's been leading worship a little bit more regularly. She is the one who sends out the communications on Planning Center. She helps me in the offices on Tuesday. She's here. We do scheduling. We do song sets. We schedule the team. We work out new songs, upload them to PCO. We do chord charts, lots of other stuff. She's fully, she's not just like a secretary. She's fully integrated, I guess is the best word, into the creative process, choosing the songs, the keys, the feel, the flow. It's not like I've got a great idea and she's over there just jotting it down. That's not how it works. Like, there's a lot, sometimes it's like, Mom, that doesn't work. Well, what about this? No, what about this? Like, it's a good back and forth, because I'm also like this. I'm not going to do this every day. I'm not going to do this every Sunday for now, forever. We know this. So if we as the lead, me as the lead, can't say, I trust you to do this, even if it looks a little different, then what in the world are we doing? Because then our church just shuts down when the people who are in charge stop doing their thing, right? And we don't believe that that's what God has for this church. So she has been integral in all of that. She is super helpful in the administrative side. She's great with all of that stuff. And, her heart in loving worship, loving the church family, loving you guys. I mean, it's just something that if you've been around, you kind of know that, all right? I don't know if you knew this. I'm going to not embarrass you here, but she decided on her own to pray over somebody on the team every week. She has little 3x5 cards at her house on her bathroom mirror. And how many of you guys, we're in June, how many of you guys have been texted with, hey, how can I pray for you, from Kylie? Like if you haven't she hasn't got to you yet. We've got more weeks to go. That was her thing. And I was like, what are you doing with, I'm sorry, but like, what are you doing with like Drew DiLorenzo's name on your, this is weird. Yeah, like, this is strange. And she's like, that's who I'm praying for. That's who I'm praying for, Mom. So my point is, I'm not trying to be like, oh, isn't she awesome? I mean, she is awesome, but my point is this. Some of the stuff that's happening in our team is happening because God is laying it. The Spirit of God is working and moving in each one of us. It's not that I've assigned something and, that's that. That was something she did, and that's actually what inspired me today to be like, let's do this. Let's pray for each other. And we believe in the power of prayer. Yes? Like, we do. So I think, I just love that example. So if you've been around when she's led worship, you guys know it doesn't feel like we're missing something. We're not missing anything when she's leading in worship. So that musical ability God has given her and woven into her heart since she's been a kid around Hope, it's been a little bit obvious to most of us who have been around, okay? In addition to Kylie coming alongside me, Tanner has become part of our worship team and has been for about 5 years now, which I was like, 5 years? And I thought, yeah, 18. I went back, I'm like, 5 years, okay? So he, and I don't want to embarrass him, but he has inspired and encouraged me to get better at the things that I do. Not because the rest of you don't, but I was like, okay, you know what that means? I don't know what that means. I want to know what that means. It matters to me. And when you've got people around you who are better at their thing, I want better than you at their thing. I want to be like, that's inspiring to me. I want to do better at my thing. And he has encouraged me and inspired me to do that. Obviously, if you've got ears, you can hear his musical abilities. We have been able to have him on guitar and drums and acoustic, and in a couple of weeks, he's going to play the keyboard for worship, I think, in July, right? So we're all kind of aware of that, all right? I actually it has prompted me to steward my gifts better for my own sake, but also for serving the body. I actually started to dig further into the tutorials because I was like, that's fine, I know my part. And I'm like, I'm not doing nothing like what they're doing. And I'm not even close. I'm like, okay, I'm asking you guys to do that. I could probably do that too. And that was from his inspiration. And also, I started taking piano lessons online with his older brother, Johnny, who is an incredible piano player. And I'm like, in my old age, I can learn more about the piano. I can. And I'm like, that, I want to do that because I think the more I know, the better it serves our church. So I've been working on those things. I've been working on better chord progressions. I've been working on transposing. I've been working on memorizing my chord charts, like knowing what's what in the songs, because I think that the better we get musically, our foundation musically, everyone in their part, the better we communicate with each other and the freer we are. Okay? So that has been helpful for me. Tanner is a great asset as a help to me because he also knows how to communicate musical foundations. We were talking about the little guitar. I don't play the guitar. I know that's a shocker. I took 3 months of lessons with Dylan. 3 weeks? I took 3 weeks of lessons with Dylan, and my fingers hurt so bad that I was like, I'm sorry for every time I yelled at you. I can't believe how bad my fingers hurt because I can play an E minor chord, I can play a G. I think I already brought a D sus. Like, I'm just saying, I was like, I'm going to do this. I was terrible at it, and so it's very, very beneficial to have somebody who's like, no, I know. And not only that, he knows how to talk the lingo of an electric guitar that is way out of my pay grade. Like, I don't understand any of how that works, okay? So it's very helpful. He's the only one on our team, and I keep saying I'm not trying to embarrass him, but he's the only one on our team who is not only able to play every instrument, he is proficient at every instrument. And that's not like, good for you, you get 12 gold stars, and all y'all are nothing. It's not that. My point is, I feel like God has brought him in to help all of us be like, can we be better? And we've got somebody who can talk the language of a guitar player and the other pieces of it. He's talked to me about chords I played. Obviously, Sawyer. He gave me a whole 10-minute piano lesson I went home and watched the other night on one of the songs. Like, so clearly on keyboard, but like Tanner has been able to say to me, what if you change it this way? What if you play it this way? I'm like, okay. And I don't want to just say, well, I can do this. It's fine. I know how to play the chord. I mean, like, what do we want to do that serves the song? And I've asked you guys to do that over the years. I want to do the same thing. So he's been very helpful for me, knowing the ins and outs and that kind of stuff, okay? I don't know how pedal boards are set up. I barely know what they mean. So having somebody who knows correct strumming patterns, knows how to work those things, knows how to understand and talk the language about tones and that stuff is very, very helpful, okay? I might be able to tell what's wrong, but I don't always know how to fix it, and that's not that helpful. So he can go, that's not right, but let's figure out how to fix it. I want to help you get it the right way, right? Right, Kai? What was that chord that he showed you, and you were like, what? How do I play this chord? Oh, okay. I got a whole new way, and that's helpful, okay? So I have talked to both Tanner and Kylie about what feels like our next steps as we continue to work together as kind of a leadership team on worship, okay? Me as like oversight and worship director, Kylie and Tanner as kind of worship team leaders, okay? Like worship leaders using their strengths and the things that God has continues to open the doors for, okay? So much of what Kylie is doing right now won't change. This is, you guys have kind of seen it. You were 11 when we started the church, I think, 10. So you guys have kind of watched, some of you have been around, like Kathy, and I'm trying to, you've seen her just grow up into it, okay? Tanner, obviously, having just been here for 5 years, and then a lot of you guys only been here less than that, are watching these things. You don't know all this background, okay? But his role is, I think we see it expanding. I think it's something that we've talked about. I see it as God continuing to just help us as a team move forward. And as always, we're not going to go anywhere that the Lord is not taking us. That was our verse the very first Sunday we met at Bob and Carol's house. Like, God, we don't take us, God. If your spirit is not going, we don't want to go there. So we are also being attentive spiritually that we're going where God is leading us to go, and we want to stay on track with that. Okay, but we feel like this is kind of our next steps. All right. So let me tell you 4 things a little bit that Tanner's coming kind of into this is going to entail, and we're going to kind of look to lean into some of his expertise on it, for lack of a better word. Okay, we've already touched on it. He's going to continue to MD on Sundays when he's scheduled on the band. I don't know, have you led yet and MD'd? We did. We did that. Okay, so these are kind of as we feel this stuff out. I have never MD'd. Like I said, I got my hand motions. That's about as far as I can get. So as he's comfortable and on those days. Now, he still needs breaks. He's not going to be scheduled every Sunday. We're not going to do that. You got a baby, and you got a wife, and you got a dog. So, we're not going to do it. But you guys have probably already noticed that he's on the schedule often a little bit more. And that's just, we're trying to feel it out and be careful with the balance. But obviously, there will be Sundays we won't have an MD. That's okay. We've been doing it that way. I think it's going to start to feel like how we feel with the click, though. It's going to be like, wait, we're so used to that click now. We're so used to hearing it that we feel like we're a little lost without it. So we'll see how that goes. It's proven to be so far helpful and effective. We were talking a little bit, Rich or Eric. Eric and I were talking if there was a way that the guy in the back could hear from the MD. Right now, we don't have that unless they put earphones. Yeah, earphones on. So I don't know with the new board. I don't know if there's a wireless. I don't know. So I don't know that there is going to be. Most of the time, it is not going to. It would be pretty rare, and it would have to be real spirit-led if he suddenly said, hey, guys, we're not going to do that. We're going to jump to the chorus. That would be, if he's not leading, he's not going to take over. He's supporting whoever's leading that day, okay? So if I'm leading that day or she's leading that day, he's not going to be like, hey, guys, he's not making up. Yeah, we're not randomly going to go into a hoedown. Yeah, all right? So it rarely would affect anything that's happening in the back. So we were talking about on a given practice, if he speaks something to the band, if we're at rehearsal, just speak it to everybody and let everybody in the booth know what's going on. Hey, we're going to jump down to the third song or whatever, okay? But I think that we're going to get used to that, and I'm excited for it. He will continue to lead worship. You guys are already seeing him. He's leading worship regularly along with Kylie and myself. Every fall, the staff does one-on-ones with Mark, and we talk through goals and what we see is upcoming and what we feel like God is doing. One of my goals in 2021, fall of 2021, was that I would be backed down to leading twice a month, and they would be leading the others by the end of this year. And I feel like we're on track. Sometimes it's, there's the Hope Kids takeover service, or something else is happening in a day, teen service or whatever. And so it's still giving me the 2 weeks off, okay? And I feel like that's healthy. And I love to be on the floor to worship. I have a whole different freedom down there, and there's value in that for me. And so I feel like and I think there's value in the church seeing, I know you guys are near 30, which is crazy to me, but you're not really the kids, but you're also the right ones to be leading, okay? So I'm excited for that, all right? It just feels like the fingerprints of God in there. I'm grateful that we have had on occasion, Dylan has led worship and is going to be leading again in August. And that's not, it's not like, okay, we're developing, everybody is leading worship. But he has been available and willing to lead. I'm grateful for that. Eva, when we have had youth Sundays, Eva has maybe been our best fit to date to step up and lead on a youth Sunday. It's awesome. So that's something that I'm like, is God going to bring other leaders? I think that's a given. I don't know when. I don't always know who necessarily. I don't know on what timetable. But I'm like, it isn't just like, okay, it was me, and now it's you two and no one else. Like, I think that we just see God, we just see him doing it, and so we're just going to follow those footsteps, all right? And on those times where we need it, it's been grateful. It's been good to have those kind of, I always say like tomorrow's church. I'm like, tomorrow's church is today. I know that. But it's what I think God is doing, because we don't want to be one of those churches where we all just literally are dying because we just have old people who eventually die. I mean, that was our grandparents' church was First Baptist of Woodbury, and they had 600 members like in the day. Like they were hopping, and in whatever 2002 or whatever, Mark spoke on a Bible study, and Grandmom said, our church is literally dying, Mark, because we're actually all old and dying, and there are no young people here. And I'm like, and they were, babe, how many were, they were like down to 50 people, right? Like it just, I'm like, and your heart just goes, something like this, there's something that we want our young people to continue to be the church. So that's all I'm going to say about the youth. Okay, back to Tanner. He is going to become a bit more central in the development of our musicians, okay? Mainly guitarists, again, helping me to audition. You have to say no to people. And onboarding new band members, like that's going to be something. This role's a little bit less defined. We'll kind of see how it goes, but we're working with some things like getting with our electric guitarists, and then electric guitarists who come in the future and be like, how are we building our boards? What are we doing on there? What things do you like? What things don't you like? What things are working for you? Hey, what do you prefer? Let me show you how this sounds. Just kind of like, I mean, things I already know. Josh has reached out and been like, hey, what do you do on this? How do you do that song? Dylan and Tanner are having conversations. Like, that's a normal thing. So there's informality, but also in a little bit more formal role, okay? Because, again, ask me what those pedals do. I know the one that's like that is volume. That's it, okay? That's about as much as I know. I mean, and they sound great. Impressive, right? I will point back to my very smart musical knowledge. Okay, maybe some one-on-one time with that, maybe just being available to run questions by, but that's just kind of more of development of that guitar-y kind of things. Obviously, the stuff that you guys talk about as drummers, those things are, this is like, hey, you already do it. What are we doing on this? What should we do on that? What do you like? Hey, I like this. Like, that's kind of normal, bandy kind of stuff. I would say bass guitar as well. We kind of have a feel for the bass stuff that's happening. That's a little bit outside of my musical wheelhouse, okay? Lastly, we are going to look toward using backing tracks, okay? It's something that probably multi-tracks using playback. Sawyer actually showed me that playback app, and then we went through this thing at Worship Together, and they are giving us a summer free. So we might buy a couple just to see. We're gonna work it out. That can sound daunting, backing tracks, especially for those of us who were not in churches or have been in churches where they're using multi-tracks or backing tracks. It can be like, but you know what? With this playback thing and what they have right now, the just real ability to build what we want and flow the way we want to move things, it's simple. I say this because I'm not the one setting them up. Like, they showed us, and I was like, this is amazing. But we have not had it. Using backing tracks has been kind of like on the back burner for a few years now. It's been in my goals category for a while. But having somebody who knows how to build them, who has a Mac, or we get a Mac, or we get a computer, we're going to have what we need, who knows how to build them, knows how to arrange them, and then has the musical chops to. We're not asking somebody in the booth to build something who may or may not understand all of this or that, or run them from ProPresenter. We're going to run them from the MD, and maybe we may move it to the drummer starts the track, but you won't have to do any of the setup. And your metronome will become part of the track, so you won't even have that to dial down. It'll be set up. Remember, you and I were talking about even just having a metronome that just we hit? we're going to try to get that before we get to there, but eventually it will just be in there in tracks, okay?
We might get rid of tracks too.
Yes, we will get, because everything is loaded on the backing tracks.
I no longer play an instrument.
Melissa, can we get you a tiny guitar? All right, hold on, Rich. So I'll give you guys a quick overview. Backing tracks are multi-tracks. If we played everything at the level, like basically took all the faders and went up on a track, you wouldn't need anybody in this room. They have vocals, they have the click, they have all the parts, okay, all the band parts. The reason that we would be using them is not to put everything on fader, to pull everything up. It would be to use our click, it would be to use our pads that are going to move with the key, think kind of similar to what we already have. It will probably be some vocal reminders. Okay, hopefully it won't be, we can turn that down as much as possible. But reminders about where we are in the song. Tanner will continue to do what he's doing with where we are if there's things needed. And then things like this. We have parts on songs. I'm thinking of Lion and the Lamb. And now Sawyer, because he's a genius, can play this part that they do, okay? I'm not going to do it and try to intro a song or be speaking. So sometimes there's things that I want to do as I'm leading the people that's happening on a track that can go on, and then I'm not having to play or somebody's not having to play. A lot of times we have one electric, but we have two electric parts happening. So we can add some of those things. We're not talking about replacing anybody on the team. It's just some body, and I'll tell you, Tanner and I were talking about it, it's usually the stuff that nobody would know is happening. Oh, where's that other electric coming from? They just think it's whoever's on electric that day, okay? But it gives some freedom for each of us, going back to the tutorials, to just do the tutorial part, because now we're able to just do our piece with a little bit more support. Does that make sense? Okay? Is that the best way to explain it? Dustin?
So you said that the pads and click would be the same thing?
Yep.
How would the click be in the house then?
No.
No.
Mm-mm.
No,
Mm-mm.
it's basically when you make the tracks, you pan them left and right. So it's basically ran whichever side the music is run, that is run into the house. And whichever side the click is run to our ears. So it's going to basically be like how it is now. It's just extra stuff to fill out.
Yeah, I just didn't understand that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you what, a lot of us, me included, don't understand how all of it works. So it's not like, oh, it's going to be just like everything else we do. We're going to figure it out as we go. We'll tweak it as we go, okay? And but I'm just saying that's something that I feel like the main drawback from it being moved from my goals category to actually doing it is we just did not have a person who had the ability and the commitment to be like, I will build these and we can move this forward, okay? That was really the main, but we'll step into it just like we've done every other new thing we've done. We'll test it, we'll check it, we'll tweak it, we'll assess it, we'll see where we are. I think that we'll start with a few, and then big picture for today is Tanner's the guy that's going to come alongside and kind of take that as we introduce it into the team, okay? So that's something. All right? Sharing thoughts around Tanner and Kylie and myself, it feels important to say a couple more things. One, every single one on this team is valuable. Every single one of you on this team plays your part. Everyone does. Everyone is gifted on this team. I know that there are times where we're like, oh man, you hear a record, you hear, whatever, Hillsong, Elevation, you see things and you're like, man, I wish we had blah, blah, blah. But listen, kind of feel like this. That's kind of like Hollywood. I don't mean this negatively, but I can't tell you guys how many people come here or come to me and say, I'm blown away by the amount of, first of all, people involved in your team, and skill and commitment and talent on your team. It's that it isn't as typical as we're comparing to something that's records. Like we're not Hillsong. Like we're just a local church just saying, hey God, I have these gifts, I want to use them. And hey God, I want to get better at my thing because I think that matters. I think excellence in the things that we do matter. Commitment matters, okay? So we want to get better. We're not going to just be like, I'm done now. Mark said it this morning, like, I'm done now, I don't need anything. No, if I can take piano lessons at my age, we can all get better at the thing that we're doing, okay? But we are gifted, every single one. And I believe if you're in the room, you are called to this ministry for whatever time it is that God has you doing that. So it's not these are better, these are less than. Just these are the roles. How many times has Mark said the person in the nursery is just as needed and necessary as the person speaking on a Sunday up front? Because if we don't have that helping in that way, we don't have as much freedom to do what needs to happen in this room, right? So everybody is necessary and everybody is playing their part, okay? Asking Kylie and Tanner to oversee and work with me in a leadership role is simply just what it feels like God has already been doing. Like I said, I don't think this feels like new to anybody necessarily, but again, everybody hasn't been around all the years. So can that change? Sure. Might we be wrong? Might it not be what the next thing moves into? Yeah, it could be. Is God calling up others? I think that's a given. I think that will happen in his time. But I know he'll make it clear when it's the right time. And he'll make it clear if this is like, hey, we're shifting away or I'm calling this to another role or whatever, okay? This one can feel a little bit uncomfortable, but I am asking Kylie and Tanner to step up more. And sometimes that might mean that the thing that we've always done shifts a little bit, okay? And our calling is to be okay with that. Like, are we okay with that? Like, well, we haven't done that before. Well, Kylie wants to, I keep saying hoedown. We're not doing a hoedown, but no, if there's something that's like, this feels like we haven't done this before, here's what we know. We can trust that God is going to do what he's going to do because it's his church. So if we are praying for the leadership, worship leading team, I'm going to say pray for them. Pray that God will make things clear to them. And then let's follow that lead. Like as we, again, we've already been doing it. I haven't heard one person say, why is Kylie leading? Like, why is Tanner leading? We're like, that just kind of seems like an obvious thing. All right. So we're going to assume God is moving us into that. So I'm not going anywhere. It feels important somehow to say that for whatever reason. Like I said, I don't got one foot in the grave. But maybe the idea of shifting something or tweaking something or supporting something feels awesome and feels super exciting. And if that's you, that's great. That's awesome. But it might feel scary, or you might be internally rolling your eyes like, what is going on? You might be worried about what's around the corner. We're just going to ask that the Lord would direct and lead in their lives. And again, pray for each other, pray for the team. Let's put our shoulder under the load and do it together, walking together, remembering that God is the one who wants our church to thrive a lot more than we do, okay? He's the one building the church. So last thing, no one is locked into this ministry, okay? You all serve as volunteers. You are well underpaid. You are valuable to the church and to the team, okay? But that's not because of what you do. It's because you're valuable to God. You're a valuable part because you're his child. And if there ever comes a time where you feel like you need to step down or step back, you are not disappointing anyone on this team, okay? A lot of you guys have been serving for a lot of years, and it feels like you have a lot of years ahead of you, and that's great. I hope that that's the case. Some of you have been serving for a lot of years, and it feels like God might be prompting in you to move on to a different area for his kingdom here in the church, a different way of serving. And that's fine too. So if that's happening in you, only you know that between you and the Lord. Like that's something that's happening. But above all, I'm just saying, let's listen to the Holy Spirit. The reason I talk about this, like nobody is locked in, is there's a way of doing teams like this that I read recently that was like this. They actually asked their worship team to sign kind of a contract that was like, I'm committing to 1 year or to like 6 months or something. It wasn't every Sunday. They weren't serving every Sunday, but they were saying, I'm here for this amount of time to be on rotation, to accept my dates when at all possible, to be a part of the things that I can be. I'm on the team. And then at the end of that period of time, they are given the choice to re-up. Like, I'm in again for another whatever. But something about that I read this particular ministry, they felt like it was good for our psyche somehow to be like, I'm running on a thing and I see an end. And if I want to sign up again, I can sign up again and keep going. But nobody has this expectation of me that I will go forever and ever to infinity and beyond with no break, ever. I'm just forever on this team. And I thought, well, I think I said it too, Kylie. I don't think we're at a place where I feel like we need to do that, but it feels important for me to say, nobody is forever locked into this team. Like when you're like, oh, I'd be leaving them, high and dry, or leaving someone else holding the bag. Who provides for us in our need? God has always provided for us in our need. Always. So I'm like, that's why we just go, no, we're not going to worry about it. We're going to go to the next steps, and we're going to follow where he's taken us. And for whatever that felt important for me, I wanted you guys to know. Okay? So that's the end of my stuff for the day. Are there things that I can answer for you guys that weren't mentioned before we peace out? Any questions or anything that comes up? You guys know how to find me, okay? I'm easy to be found.
Just one, during rehearsals,
Mhm.
if we can, it happens occasionally. You as those on stage have the communication of like where you're going next, what part, or let's start in, we're going to pick up on this bridge on, whatever it might be, helping the production team
Mm-hmm.
to know where that is, to say, hey, we're going to pick up on this.
Where we're
verse,
at.
so we
Okay.
can put the words on for,
Yep.
for
Because it's
visuals.
helping us.
It's
Yes.
the thing, it's like, it just seems sometimes that this 50 feet gets
Yes.
lost.
Yes.
It's like, where are we at? I don't know.
That's a great point. So I would say between Kylie and myself and Tanner, and sometimes if we're missing it, a vocalist can use a mic. It's hard for a drummer to say something. But we will try to do a better job of like, hey, you guys, we're going to blah, blah, blah.
Just,
Yep.
because we obviously want to serve, like,
Yes.
especially the singers with the
Yes,
vocals, like,
exactly. Where are we? Yeah, especially the ones who can't remember their lyrics.
with the words and stuff.
Wink, wink. Yeah. Yes. No, I think that's very important. There is something about that I'm hoping we can shift, but there is something about you guys being back there, and it does feel like you said it's just the room, but something gets lost in translation. We're especially when we have the lights down in here. So yeah, we want to be a little bit more connected in that as much as we can. Good. Thank you, Eric. Anything else, guys? Dustin, Dylan? Just give them back to me. I'm not going to grade them, but well, I'll go through. Would you like me to grade them out loud? We're not going to do it. I'll let you know if you got 100 or not. If you will, just if you didn't finish it and you want to get it to me next week, that's fine. But that'll give me a good idea what we're going to do with some musical instruction. Okay? Let's pray, guys, and we'll close our day up here, all right? You can put them on this black stool here if you're done with them today. Okay? Let's pray. Heavenly Father, thank you again for the time you've given us. Thank you for the day. Thank you for all that you're doing in the church. We're so grateful, and we don't want to take for granted that your Spirit is alive and well, and you are growing each of us in our own ways, in our own walk with you. A lot of the things that we kind of dig into about why we're doing what we're doing, we didn't get deep into today, but God, remind us again the privilege that it is, the right for us to walk right into your throne room. You're our Father and you love us, and to be able to do that in a place where we're surrounded with other believers who lift up a song and hearts of gratitude through music and through this ministry, and we're just really, really grateful that we get to do that, and so we give you honor and glory. We love you. Thank you for this team, God, and be with Steve and Allie and the new baby, and John as he's unable to be with us. And you know all our needs, God, and so just guide us and direct us, and we love you. In Jesus' name, amen. Okay, thanks, guys. Thank you all.